Hello again, college football fans. It's Wednesday, December 27th. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Finally getting around to doing this Michigan-Alabama preview and prediction, score prediction video for the college football playoff Rose Bowl game. Going to take place at 5 p.m., I believe, Eastern time over there in Pasadena on New Year's Day. And everybody knows the stories of these teams. Michigan, a senior-laden team filled with a lot of guys that probably could have gone to the NFL last year had they opted to do that. But they chose to come back and finish what they have started on this good run that they've been on. 3 straight Big Ten championships, undefeated team. Jim Harbaugh with their coach and all the trials and tribulations that he's gone through this year and this team has had to go through. But they have ran roughshod through the Big Ten, especially early in the season. They were just blowing teams out, one after the other. And then they sort of ran into the meat of their schedule, which was a back-end loaded schedule. And they, I don't want to say they struggled to win, but they at least had to play a full 60 minutes in order to defeat Penn State, Ohio State, and Maryland there as well. And a lot has gone in about the sign stealing and everything. I have no comments on that. I don't know how much that affects a team's ability to win. My guess is not that much, so I don't even think it's worth talking about all that much. But this team is an old school Big Ten team. It's a 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of deal. They really rely on their power running game. They rely on their offensive line to push around the opposing defenses. They like to run between the tackles. In their passing game, there's not a lot of explosive players on the perimeter for this game. They like to use their tight ends a lot. Their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, I keep hearing that he is a dual threat running quarterback. When you look at the stats, I believe he only has somewhere in the neighborhood of 130 yards, 150 yards, somewhere around there, rushing for the entire season, which is, it's better than a lot of quarterbacks, but it's not, certainly not in that Jaden Daniels kind of range or even the Jalen Milroe sort of range when I think about running quarterbacks. So it'll be interesting to see. There's been a lot of talk that he was a little bit gimpy there towards the end of the season, and that may have affected some of his numbers in that regard. But just suffice to say, this is a power football team, old school Big Ten style. They rely on their defense to dominate the opposing offenses, and they also rely on their running game in every aspect of their offense. And whatever they do passing, whether it's to the tight ends or to their receivers, it all hinges on that running game. It's going to be play action stuff, that sort of offense that relies on staying on schedule as far as down and distance, and relies on just being stronger up front than the team that they're playing and controlling the game from start to finish. And like I said, that results in a lot of those blowout type victories that they had. And even in the tight games that they had toward the end of the season, I don't think they ever really felt in serious danger of losing the ball game. They pretty much kept control of the game the entire time. So that's Michigan. Alabama, on the other hand, their story is probably even more talked about among the national sports media in the fact that they came into this season with brand new coordinators on both sides of the ball, question marks at quarterback, which got even bigger after the first 3 weeks of the season, and then they sort of took care of that. They had some youth in spots, especially on the offensive line, and that seems to be improving. They continue to improve as the season has gone on, and that culminated in a pretty big-time victory over the vaunted Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC championship game. But Alabama's had to reach into their bag of tricks and win in every different sort of way that you can win after overcoming that loss to Texas early in the season back in September. They've had to come from behind to win ball games. They've had to hang on at the end. They had to obviously to do the miracle Hail Mary 31-yard 4th and goal in the Iron Bowl to come away with that one. So the word that I would ascribe to this team, especially the offense and Jalen Milroe, would be clutch. I've said it all year. Jalen has been very, very clutch. He's the kind of quarterback that can get sacked 3 times in a row, and on that or 2 times in a row, and then on the 3rd and 20, throw a laser to an open Amari Niblack or somebody like that to get a miracle first down and keep the drive going. This offense can be stifled for quarters and even halves at a time, and then all of a sudden just resurrect from the dead and take a game over. We saw that happen in the Tennessee game. You know, the team, Alabama, like Michigan always, even with in these recent years with these prodigious quarterbacks that we've had, like Tua and Bryce, Alabama's always wanted to be able to rely on their running game when they wanted to, or even when they had to. And that really hasn't been there consistently this year. The running game was completely taken away from them in that Texas A&M game. And they had to rely on Jalen Milroe to throw for 300 and something yards to be able to pull out the victory on that one. The defense has been better. I've said all season long, I feel like this is the best defense that Alabama's had in 5 seasons. Ever since Jeremy Pruitt left. You know, he was there for a couple of seasons after Kirby Smart. And then we had Tosh Lapoy and we had Pete Golding at defensive coordinator. And the defense just didn't ever look right. I mean, they were still laden with a lot of talent and still had pretty decent numbers when it came to like national rankings, but they never had the same intensity and the same dog mentality that we were used to seeing Alabama Nick Saban defenses play with. And so it's been good to see them play with a higher level of intensity and probably a better level of execution this year than we've seen in the last several seasons. Now, they have had to deal with a lot of nagging injuries throughout that defense, and this is one of those situations coming into this playoff game where they've had almost a month to heal, so we should see Alabama's team at full strength coming into this game, and just going to go right into it. Going into this ball game, I feel like that it's going to start off a defensive slugfest struggle. I think the entire first half is going to be very, very low scoring. Yards and points are going to be at a premium. But I do believe that Alabama is going to manage to be able to break through and hit pay dirt towards the end of the first half before Michigan is able to. And I think that the halftime score is going to look something like 10-6, Alabama going into halftime. And, you know, like we talked about, both of these teams rely on their defenses to hold down the fort. And we're going to continue to see that. But I just think that Alabama's talent, I just think the SEC, when you get to the highest level like that, and Alabama's been there for most of Nick Saban's tenure over the last 17 years, and they just managed to recruit at a level that few, if anyone, are able to do, and that's going to show up in the second half of this ball game. And I think the way I think it's going to look in the first half is Michigan's defense is going to play brilliantly. There's going to be some shoestring tackles. There's going to be a lot of defensive backs getting at the receiver just in the nick of time before the ball gets there and that sort of thing. But I think it's going to look on the other side like Alabama's defense is completely dominating Michigan's offense. It's like we said coming into this description of the game. Michigan relies on being ahead of schedule. They rely on executing well. They rely on matriculating the ball down the field. And Alabama's defense, I just don't think they're going to be able to do that against them. I think Alabama is going to be able to take their run away from them, which is going to take their offense away from them. And I think they're going to look pretty inept throughout the entirety of this football game. And like I said, Alabama is the sort of team that can get stifled for an entire half of football and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, a couple of possessions in a row, get explosive plays because they have explosive players. They have more explosive players on the perimeter. They have more speed than Michigan has. And I think that will be the difference in the second half of this ball game. The dam will sort of break a couple of times for the Michigan defense, and Alabama will be able to get a touchdown or two lead towards the end. And I think the final of this one, and I'm being very conservative here, I think the final is going to be 24-13 Alabama, and I would not be at all surprised to see the dam break even worse than that, and this be, you know, getting into the blowout sort of territory. I know that's not really the consensus, and certainly not out of Vegas. I was very surprised to see that Vegas had Michigan favored in this game, and I'm even more surprised that Michigan has remained the favorite throughout the entire the entirety of the lead up to this game. So that's just how I see it. I'm going to stay conservative and say 24-13 seems like a reasonable final score for me. And we'll just have to see how things go. And if that does occur, then I will have gone against the grain a little bit and turned out to be right. That doesn't happen very often, so we'll see what happens this time. Thanks for watching.